What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to kick off the new series of my Dream Garage Buildout. It's going to be a few parts probably. Today we're going to be starting off with doing epoxy floors in both the detached 30 by 35 foot garage space here, as well as we're also going to do the attached 2-car garage, big 2.5 car garage. All of that is going to be covered with the Rustoleum Recoat primer because these floors are pretty smooth. They have a thin layer, I think, of sealer on them. It's not very well sealed, but there is sealer on it. So we're going to use the Recoat primer, and then going to switch over tomorrow after that Recoat primer has dried. We're going to use the Rustoleum Epoxy Shield epoxy for the top coat. So between these two garages, we've got about 1,500 square feet of floors to put down. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I think it's gonna really be worth it in the end. And plus, I've got a lot of other plans for this garage space, including drywalling the ceiling. You can see up there, it is really insulated, which is great, along with insulated garage doors, and probably my favorite piece here, air conditioning. So big upgrade from what I'm used to working in, and building it out with a ceiling, some more lights, and epoxy floors is going to be perfect, and really give me the room to do more projects that I want to do. So let's get into it. Got a lot of work today with this floor, and we'll see how it goes. It's hot out here, and I've been looking forward to doing this though, so let's get into it. There are a few tools that you're going to want to have on hand before you start this project. The first is going to be a scrub brush, so you can scrub any grease and oil stains off the slab before you start. You're going to want a squeegee so you can pull the standing water off the slab and let it dry. You're also going to need a paint roller frame so you can roll on the paint and epoxy. I recommend using a degreaser like Simple Green to get oil stains up. Blue painter's tape is great for masking off any areas you don't want painted. And also, not required, but I highly recommend using a pressure washer. I'm using a Ryobi electric pressure washer here that I've had for some time, and it makes a job like this much easier. After a good day or two to let that slab fully dry, it's time to start applying the primer coat. I'm using a Rustoleum Recoat primer. This is specifically designed to go over top of sealed concrete slabs and allow the epoxy to bond securely with the slab. The first thing we did was to go around and cut all the edges in with a paintbrush. We found that teaming up and having one person doing the edges while the other fills in the rest of the slab with the roller was the best method. We're using an 18-inch paint roller, 3/8 inch nap like Rustoleum recommended. I highly recommend using the 18-inch roller over the 9-inch. It saves so much time and made this whole process so much more enjoyable. exactly a day later and it's time to start epoxying. Rust-Oleum products come in these two-part pouches that you roll one side towards the other. When you do that, it ruptures the dividing seam in the middle of them and allows the part A and the part B to mix. This is great because you don't have to measure anything out and you don't have to mix anything in buckets. Just make sure that you mix it thoroughly every time you do this. Some people like to just pour the epoxy product out of the pouch onto the floor and push it around with a roller. I prefer to pour it into a pan so I can control how much I'm putting down and know exactly where I stand as far as how much of the epoxy I've used as I'm going. Just like with the primer, we're gonna cut in the edges first and then fill in the rest of the floor with an 18-inch roller. Again, we're using a 3/8 inch snap 18-inch roller. And since this is epoxy and it's going to be a little more time sensitive, you need to work in areas that you can cover as quickly as possible. So definitely having a partner for a space this size is gonna be critical to you being able to do this fast enough. As I mentioned before, I'm using the Rustoleum Gloss Gray Epoxy Shield, two-part epoxy floor kit. Since you're watching this video, I bet you have a lot of the same interests as I do. So you should go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell so that you know when I upload part 2 of this video and you can see the continuation of my dream garage build out. Shout out to my wife for spending the better part of a weekend with me rolling out epoxy on this garage. She was a big help, and I couldn't have done it without her. All right, so after all that work, the floor is done. This is 1,050 square feet of shop space that was coated entirely with the Rustoleum Recoat primer and then the Rustoleum Epoxy Guard epoxy floor. Both of them covered exactly like Rustoleum said they would, which I was really surprised. I actually bought double what they said I was gonna need because in the past I've used the Rustoleum rock solid metallic and I used double the product that it was recommended, and I was still not happy with how thin the coat was. You could actually see through it and see the aggregate of the concrete below. So with that history, I bought double what I was supposed to need here, thinking I'd probably end up using it, but it actually was accurate to how much square footage it covered, which is great. I was able to return about half of the material, which is nice. And I couldn't be happier with how it comes out. So this is the Gloss Gray Rustoleum Epoxy Guard is the product. And it's of course over top of the Rustoleum Recoat primer. The primer made all the difference in the world. Highly recommend using that instead of etching the concrete or grinding the concrete. The primer worked great. I guess time will tell if it stays stuck down or if it peels up, but for now, it worked great. It helped the epoxy cover 100 times better. Made rolling it on a lot easier, and I think it looks really good. It's got a nice gloss to it, nice and even finish, and it looks clean. You'll notice I did not put down the chips that come with the kit. They're optional. I don't like the chips. I think it makes it look messy. I prefer a real nice clean looking floor, and that is what we've got here now. So I'll still have to go around the edges and clean up and cut off some of the edges of the tape that I put down, but that won't take very long. And then from there we move on to step 2, which is going to be drywalling the ceiling and adding a few more of these lights. We're gonna get it nice and bright in here and get that ceiling closed off so I don't have these rafters overhead. So with that, I'm pretty happy with how this has come out so far, and step 1 is in the books. So let's move on to the next step and keep this thing going.